great people who are here today with us, who, whether directly or indirectly, have made this project possible. We are, of course, the mayor of the city of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot. The commissioner of the department, Marisa Navarra. Our illustrious leader and strong voice for the 35th Ward, Alderman Carlos Rosa. Let me also recognize other elected officials who have joined us today, who either directly or indirectly have supported for the last 7 years that it took to get this project done. And that's before we closed on financing. I want to welcome Representative Delia Ramirez. Senator Cristina Pacion Zayas. Senator Omar Aquino. Representative Will Guzzardi. And First Ward Alderman Daniel Espada. We'll go on through the program as we meet other people. You will be able to hear from some of the people that I just introduced and others. So with no further ado, let me introduce our first speaker and partner who made this project happen, Juliet de Jesus Leandre, sorry about that, who is the Executive Director of the Logan Square Neighborhood Association, LSNA.
Second. Good morning. Good morning. All right. I am so happy to be here. My tios lived and their whole entire families in Bickerdike housing. So I am happy. I know what the legacy of having affordable housing means to so many of our families. I'm Juliet from Palenque, LSNA. All right. Also known as the Logan Square Neighborhood Association. We're going to do a little bit of call and response. Yeah? Are you ready? We're going to wake up. All right. When I say we are, you all say here to stay, all right? We are here to stay. We are here to stay. Amen. And now in Spanish, when I say aquí estamos, you say y no nos vamos. Aquí estamos. Y no nos vamos. Aquí estamos. Y no nos vamos. All right. So when the rich get subsidies, we call it progress, right? When the poor give subsidies, we call it charity. We need more solutions to the displacement of Black and brown families from Chicago, and this building is one of them. Named after an Afro-Mexicana, Lucy Gonzalez Parsons, right? All right, that's a beautiful name. So, affordable housing is not charity, it's justice, especially in the midst of gentrification. Over 20,000 Latinos, Latinx, have had to leave Logan Square, have been displaced. And over 200,000 African Americans have been forced to leave Chicago in search of opportunity. That ain't right. That ain't right, right? So Black and brown barrios in Chicago deserve bold, abundant investments, right? Black and brown barrios and children deserve and are worthy of fully funded schools, of affordable and beautiful housing to live in dignity. We demand abundance. My name is Juliet de Jesus Alejandre, the Executive Director of Palenque LSNA. Soy la hija de una madre inmigrante de Ecuador y un papá puertorriqueño, nacida aquí en el barrio Latinx del lado noroeste de Chicago. I was born and raised on the Latinx Northwest side. And I say that because people forget that the Northwest side is also Latinx, right? And so this area has been an important welcoming corridor for Latino families and Caribbean migrants for over 60 years. And it is still the #1 place of concentration for Latino homeowners. Don't believe the hype. We're here. We're here to stay. The barrio is our home. We are parent mentors, youth leaders, housing activists, peace circle keepers. We see our children's children remaining here. Chicago's a working class city. Chicago's a black and brown city. Chicago is de nosotras. 100 units of 100% affordable housing is just the beginning, right? Hace 4 años, 500 vecinos nos paramos aquí mismito y rezamos para convertir un parqueadero a este edificio para 100 familias. In 2018, 500 neighbors came here and manifested this building. We saw it. Then candidate Lori Lightfoot marched with us too on that day. We saw it. So, although I want to thank Bickerdike, I want to thank all our aldermen who always have the back of our people. I want to thank the city, but I want to thank our people because we dream ourselves into the future. We have the audacity to see ourselves, right? The victory belongs to the people and to the Chicago that is for everyone, not just for the rich, but for everyone. Chicago es para todos. So gracias y felicidades a ustedes. Gracias.
Gracias, Juliet. That was awesome, right? Okay, so now we have the privilege of hearing from the first resident that moved in to Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments. So let me introduce David Rivera.
Hi, how's everyone doing today? My name is David Anthony Rivera. I grew up here in this neighborhood all my life. I'm 40 years old now. I left the city for a few years, came back for family. It was right before the pandemic hit, and then life changed. And life changed in every aspect for me, and I think for most people. This community, this neighborhood is my entire childhood, and I remember there were many points through this pandemic that I wasn't sure if I could afford my apartment anymore or if I could stay in the neighborhood. You know, mom and grams are just down the street, and so it was important for me to be able to stay in this community for that reason. The other thing is I feel like, you know, when I came back, I noticed a lot of changes, and I felt like people were having to move, you know, from their homes that they've lived in, you know, or apartments, you know, for most of their lives. Their children, you know, have to change schools, go further outside of the city, because cost of living is obviously an issue right now. So when I heard about the opportunity, for me, it just came out of the blue. I wasn't seeking it. It just happened. And every moment that's happened in this whole process, I think, has been a blessing for me, just because it felt like it was meant to be, and everything just kind of fell into place. So I got the letter. They were inviting me to come in, and they said, you're kind of the first one, and I was kind of in shock a bit and honored, of course, but then also thinking, was I deserving? Was there somebody else more deserving? But you know, I think everyone deserves the opportunity to live comfortably in their communities. Thank you. And you shouldn't have to stress every day. You shouldn't have to go to work stressed or come home and stress, you know, or you know, your kids also are going through this whole process of this pandemic. You know, myself struggled with a lot of the depression that comes along with what was going on and all those other things. And luckily, I take care of myself. But with that being said, I just want to say thank you to everyone involved. First off, because this wouldn't exist without all of the people behind it. And there's a lot of people behind it. And I see all the hard work that's gone into this project. To be the first one in the building was a little weird, you know. It was, but again, it was something new, and it was really kind of a new start for me, I think, and for a lot of other people who are going to be coming into the building. And so I want to say thank you for that opportunity, especially Bickerdike, who has pretty much been by my side since the application process. calls me, emails me constantly, making sure that I'm happy, am I okay, is the apartment okay? So it feels really good, it feels right for me, and again, thank you, everyone involved, and I look forward to meeting all the new tenants. I met a few of them already, and you're going to be able to speak to or hear from the next one up here in a moment. So thanks again for this opportunity. I'm a little nervous, but thank you.
Thank you, David. So, housing is not a privilege. Housing is a human right. Housing is a right. Housing insecurity in this country is a terrible thing. And we are happy to be able to provide that stability to people in this community through Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments. I want to introduce our next speaker, who almost needs no introduction, but I want to say a few words about her from my vantage point. And that's our mayor. Because it's really a tough job. I can tell you as a CEO of Bickerdike, and I think I didn't introduce myself, Joy Arruguete, CEO of Bickerdike Redevelopment Corporation, for those who don't know me. And, but it's hard to be in charge, and I can't imagine what it would feel like to be the mayor of the city. Chicago is a great city, but we're a city that has our challenges. And right after taking office, COVID hit, right? Or not that long after. And all of us had to learn how to address a new reality, right? And we have somebody with an ear who listens, and let me tell you, our city has been speaking. And she's been listening. But it's really hard to be the mayor. But I want to say that it's been her leadership, and I've been through a lot of mayors. I've been at Bickerdike for more than a minute, and I can tell you that we have not had the mayor's ear. In fact, I want you to know that this is the first of many ribbon cuttings that we've done that the mayor has given us the pleasure of their company. Let's give her an applause just for that. So she's taken us through thick and thin. We've actually heard about housing, which is a delight because housing has been absent in the vocabulary of some of our previous leaders. And so now, with no further ado, I would like to introduce the Honorable Mayor Lori E. Lightfoot.
First of all, I want to say for all the folks that are standing on the sides, if you want a seat, like they were nice to reserve some seats for some folks that are not here, but it's going to be a long, beautiful program. So if you want a seat, come on up front. There's plenty of seats. Joy's right. It's a hard job to be the mayor of the city. And let me begin by acknowledging the horrible tragedy that befell us last night at Chicago and State. 10 people shot, 2 dead. And unfortunately, I think as we learn more details about what happened, it's going to feel like deja vu all over again. Young people coming together, getting into a fight, and the difference maker is someone had a gun, and that someone used it. It's hard to stand here day after day and see this happen in our city, because it is a tragedy. I don't use the word senseless violence because there's no violence modifier. Violence is wrong. Violence tears apart families and the fabric of our city. And it's with a very heavy heart that I stand here before you today. But I also believe that God has a plan for all of us. And little did I know, having been up half the night, that I would get to come to this joyous occasion. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the things that we can never lose sight of, through all the tragedy that we sometimes experience, and particularly what we've been through over these last 2 years, the joy does come in the morning. For those of you who are people of faith, you know about what I make reference. But the joy comes because we, individually and collectively, make it happen. And that's what, to me, this celebration is all about. Joy is right. Housing is a basic human right that for way too long in this city we fell down on. We forgot that it was important for our neighbors, our brothers and sisters, to be able to have a place that was safe and secure, that they could lay their heads down at night and feel that safety that we all take for granted. And that's why moments like this are so important. It is a joyful time. It's a time for us to celebrate. But it's also the time for us to continue to roll up our sleeves and fight that fight to make sure that families can stay in neighborhoods. I could talk at length about why this day is so important, but I will keep my remarks to a minimum. But there are a lot of people to thank for this moment. Obviously, we got to thank the tremendous people at Bickerdike who never lose sight of what's important and making sure that we're bringing affordability so people can stay in their neighborhoods, families can remain together, and that we can do what is necessary as a community to build wealth and opportunity for people like the residents of this new facility. So thank you, Joy, and thank you all the folks at Bickerdike. I also want to thank Carlos Ramirez-Rosa, the alderman of the 35th Ward. Who also happens to be my alderman since I live down the street. Thank you, Carlos, for always making sure that you are advocating on behalf of your community, and more importantly, making sure that you work in collaboration with others to get things done. This project would not have been possible without you and your perseverance, so thank you, Alderman. I also want to thank the Chicago Housing Authority, who has big skin in this game. We have a new leader. Some of you have been, she's unfortunately not able to be with us today, but when I talked to her through the interviewing process, I said, you know, we're 120,000 affordable units down in the city. We've got to make meaningful progress, and CHA has to be part of the solution. And she and her team understand that and are doing their part, using their resources to make sure that we open up opportunities and affordability all across our city. So I'm going to say thank you to Tracy Scott, the CEO of the Chicago Housing Authority, and the CHA team. I also got to give some praise to our amazing Housing Commissioner, Marissa Navarra. Gifted, committed, and determined. Those are the values that she brings to the job every single day. And we are working all over the city to make sure that we make good on the promise of taking meaningful steps to make sure that we're building housing and apartment opportunities for people in the city so we can retain partnerships, we can retain communities, we can retain families, and families can feel like they have a place in the city of Chicago. Right. Some of you know that last December we announced a $1 billion commitment for more affordable housing all over the city. The dollar amount is important. $1 billion is a lot of dough. But what's also important, if you look at where these projects are intended, they are going to make the first meaningful step of breaking down segregation in our city in a generation. So thank you, Marissa, and the Department of Housing. This project feels very important and special to me. I mentioned I live just down the road, and I've been watching every day as the structures were coming in place. The prefab was put into place. The colors, the beautiful colors of this building were shining through as we passed by and wondering when will be the time that we get to this moment where we can welcome the residents. I came to this neighborhood for the very first time in 1987 when I was a law student. There used to be a Mexican restaurant where Reno now is. And if you won the all-university athletic championship, the dean would bring people here because the folks that owned that restaurant were U of C law school alums. First time I came to Logan Square, I thought, where the hell am I going? Because I was in Hyde Park, and it felt like, from a kid from a small town, it felt like I was driving halfway across the state to get here. Little did I know that first time in December '97 that I would come to make this community my home. My wife and I moved into our home over on Wrightwood and Kimball in November of 2004. And we've been here ever since. Now, of course, I told her she's going to bury me in that house because two trucks to get all of my crap in, not to mention hers. But it's a beautiful thing to see this incredible opportunity for people to be able to live in their neighborhood. 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and importantly, 3 bedrooms to accommodate families. We've supported this not only by making sure that we streamline the work to get it done, it's also being supported by a $250,000 Chicago Recovery Plan grant. I'm excited about all the amenities that the residents are going to be able to enjoy. 5 community-based businesses such as food and beverage vendor, Cafe Ambrosio, and a Logan Square version of Hyde Park's iconic Silver Room. So we'll see how that jumps off when it opens up. I talked to the Silver Room owner the other day about this opportunity in our neighborhood. It's important to note that this is also a transit-oriented development. You know that, but it's important to say it. It's not only adjacent to the Logan Square Blue Line, but it's also well-served by several bus routes that we've seen, if you look behind you, or been going steadily down Kedzie. And surrounded by the Logan Square neighborhood, which is, as you know, very bike-friendly, with bike lanes along the boulevards, arterial streets, and roads. It's absolutely vital that our residents not only have an affordable place to call home and raise a family in, but are surrounded by affordable transit options and walkable amenities that many of us take for granted in neighborhoods all over the city. It can't be a luxury. It has to be a basic everywhere. And I'm glad that this building is here in Logan Square that has so much to offer on Kedzie, on Milwaukee, and the surrounding area. So next week, we are going to be introducing a Connecting Communities Ordinance, which will advance the city's racial equity, affordable housing, economic development, public health, and climate action goals through development near transit. We are pushing transit-oriented development into the category of ETOD, that's equitable transit-oriented development. So I want to thank everyone involved in making this magical moment possible. I want to thank Joy and everyone at Bickerdike. I want to thank, of course, our, again, Department of Housing, CHA, but I also want to thank the residents of this incredible community. You know, as you heard, streets were walked, petitions were signed, community meetings were held to make this moment possible. And I will say more to come. It's joyous to be here. Thank you all so much. And let's keep working together to make sure that our city is moving forward, recognizing everybody and including everyone in a more equitable, fairer future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Mother Nature certainly agrees, right? She's speaking out. And I want to, so we have speakers, more speakers, but it wouldn't be a Bickerdike celebration if we couldn't bring together many things, because housing is not a standalone, right? Housing is connected to so many issues, as you heard the mayor refer to, housing and health and housing and art. And speaking of which, Hector Duarte is in the process of doing a really beautiful mural, which will be represented on the wall right next to the canopy there, which is the depiction of Lucy Gonzalez Parsons in her life. And so one of the things that we always make sure that we do at every event and celebration is to make sure that we have some local entertainment. And so with no further ado, I want to bring up Logan Liu.
Check, 1, 2. What's going on, Logan Square? Make some noise. La lucha sigue, no, the fight continues. This is not winning the war, but it's a battle, and it's a battle to continue for affordable housing. I grew up literally half a block away, and another affordable housing complex just right off of Diversity. So it's beautiful to see this here. I want to thank Bickerdike and all the partners for continuing that fight. I got to follow the mayor, which is a tough act to follow, so if I give anybody the program, I'm going to say she opened for me.
As long as you give me a little trim, right?
Okay, yeah, a little bit, just a little bit. You know, I am joined here to perform this poem called Stone Eagle by Matt Davis on flute, by Jess on bongos, and by Armando Perez on guitar. Give it up for the band, young. They heard about the cause and they're like, yeah, man, let's mess it up. And so this poem right here is about the gentrification in Logan Square and about our roles, mine included. We're gonna do a quick sound check to make sure the sound sounds good for everybody, and we'll get right into it. The stone eagle faces south, perched on her pillar, ever vigilant, never blinking. She watches over you and has seen you change. Some would say evolve. From your Eastern European origins to the Latino flavors of the Caribbean to the bourgeoisie of today, I remember you, shaken violently during frostbite winters while waiting for the bus to take me to school. You kept me warm. But I'm failing to recognize you. You don't play with our friends anymore. They say you went through a transformation. an identity change. They say you're getting better now, like when Angel was in rehab, but others say you're being gutted, while others use another ugly G word that hangs over our head like a thick gray cloud, ready to rain guilt on us. The gentrifier, me, you, the poet, the developer, all characters in this drama now playing at the Logan Theater right after the critically acclaimed Eviction, and the sticky soda-soaked floors of the theater have finally been washed like the people that once went there. Logan Square, my hood, not a square, more like a circle, like a cycle of displacement. Like when the Europeans came here after the natives long left, to be followed by the Latinos who got pushed further west. Like the artists, hipsters, and yuppies that have come next, not a square. There is no right angle to approach this. They say you're getting more diverse, but they said that too about your brother, Lincoln Park, in the 80s. And diversity only lasts as long as the lease of the last low-income renter. Ask the landlord, Fishman, and his properties. He'll tell you it's business. And his price, culture. Like when he told Nothing Less Cafe they had to leave. And the Russian single mother of 3 had to close the open mic so that Intelligentsia Coffee could pay a higher price. That just ain't right. We used to be different. Echoes of your gang shouts still reverberate in my memory like the ricocheting bullets that once bounced near my window. I remember the fear of riding my bike down Milwaukee while gangs traded bottles. Is this the hood I claim to keep? I, the ultimate gentrifier, will spit this same poem in the bars and cafes I denounce, trying to further my career as a novelty act. Like, yeah, I grew up here. And I will wear the scars that you gave me to be shown off at 4 a.m. bars. Like, I got this one in 95 running from the cops. And I will blame the new crop of culture for seeking the same goals that my family came here to do. But the difference is when the white flight happened, they chose to. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Logan Lou. Woo! Now, those are some words. Thank you to his band. I'm sure that you can check him out at some of the venues in Logan Square. In fact, I know you can. You can check it out on his website. So our next speaker could not be here today, but I want to recognize her and the role of the Chicago Housing Authority. So when we think of the Chicago Housing Authority, our minds are still back in all those gallery-style high-rise housing that were not well managed, right? Where safety problems were an issue. But that is not the role of the CHA today. And the CHA has been a very valuable partner and an increasingly valuable partner in the development of affordable housing throughout the city of Chicago. And I'd like to say that they were a really valuable partner in the development of Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments because we are housing 50 of the replacement units from Lightfoot right here in this development. We were proud to do that, and even though Tracy Scott cannot be here today, I would like to recognize the Chicago Housing Authority and Tracy's leadership in bringing partnerships for the development of affordable housing and for making this development possible. She is not here to speak with us today, but she has a representative who is going to speak on her behalf, and she is no stranger to this development because she was the project manager. And so weekly, monthly, we saw her all the time on Zoom meetings and talked to her in person and fought with the CHA about where in the heck is the status of that pay app, right? And so I'd like to introduce Alam Corey, who is going to speak on behalf of the Chicago Housing Authority. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. So yes, I am a senior project manager with the Chicago Housing Authority, and I had the pleasure of working with Bickerdike on this project. This was an amazing project, and I'm very excited to put that as one of my projects that I've worked on in my career, actually. So CEO Tracy Scott does send her regards and her regrets for not being able to join us today, but she is with us in spirit. For years now, this community has been working together to advocate for housing stability in this neighborhood. And that effort has become successful as today we celebrate this 100-unit project for which CHA provided $13 million in construction funds and 50 project-based vouchers, which are estimated to bring in an additional $15 million in guaranteed rents over the next 20 years. Thank you. And as you tour the units in the building, you'll see that the quality of this building is amazing. It's high quality, affordable rental units that are ensuring long-time residents, people who grew up in Logan Square, can continue to call this neighborhood home. And I also want to point out that the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom CHA units make this a true family development. At CHA, we recognize that the strength of our community depends on the availability of affordable, stable housing, and we are committed to creating access to that housing. So I would like to thank Mayor Lightfoot for your support in this project and others like it all across the city. I'd like to thank our partners at Bickerdike and Joy, of course, as well as Commissioner Marissa Navarro from the Department of Housing, and of course, 35th Ward Alderman Carlos Ramirez-Rosa, who worked so long and hard to bring this project to its constituents. So congratulations to everyone, and please enjoy the celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Alam. So we had our renaming, and I almost forgot that we have a really cool button that we want to make sure everybody gets before they leave, which is celebrates Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments. I'm going to give one to everybody on the stage so they can put it on, and I got one more, a couple more in my pocket because I made sure we have 10, plus one more lost. There we go. All right, so, and I know that they're going to be passing them out anytime because I almost forgot, but I know they're going to get it together now. Many partnerships and many layers of financing are involved in doing an affordable housing development, and policies that drive the allocation of funds. And so we know that it's like a lasagna financing, right? And that is literally what it feels like. Lots of layers of finance. And so I want to recognize the role of the Department of Housing, because I think that they have their incredible leadership right now in our illustrious Commissioner Marisa Nawada, and it's not just being a Department of Housing; it takes leadership, and she has provided tremendous leadership and the allocation of resources to make sure that projects like this can happen, to make sure that we have excellent policies that drive the allocation of resources, that can link together not just the silo of housing, but can bring other sources of financing into a development. And so with no further ado, I want to bring up, and let me tell a little story first. So, the mayor made the right decision in Marisa. But she has a very special role in this project because this project started with a phenomenal community planning process. And that community process was hosted by the Metropolitan Planning Council. And they came in to lead a planning process which I know hundreds of people participated in this community, many of whom are here, to help define and prioritize what would happen on this site. And unequivocally, in all three of those planning processes, affordable housing came out as a priority, and I hope I'm not stealing your thunder. But I think that it's not just the planning process. All throughout, when we survived a lawsuit against us for doing this project, when we had naysayers and people that were trying to stop this project, I will never forget the words of our own commissioner when she said, people take precedence over a parking lot. And having a place to live. And so I want to welcome this leader, our commissioner of the Department of Housing, Marisa Navarra.
Good morning. Thank you, Joy, for that kind introduction. Joy and I have worked together for about 20 years, so it makes this kind of celebration even more special to see this come to fruition. I do want to thank my boss, Mayor Lightfoot, for your leadership and commitment to our goal at the Department of Housing, which is the equitable distribution of affordable housing across the city of Chicago. You've been a champion on our issues, Mayor, and I thank you. And I want to congratulate Joy and Bickerdike team, leaders with Palenque, Logan Square Neighborhood Association, and Alderman Rosa, because it has been such a long road to get to today. You know, I took the blue line, as I do most days, and I was walking up the stairs out of the station, and faced with this beautiful structure, I suddenly had Stevie Wonder on my mind. Isn't she lovely? And the answer to that is yes, because this is more than a building, although the building itself is lovely. Congrats, Landon Bonebaker. But this was truly a community process and a community victory. And as Joy said, this one does feel personal to me. We didn't only fund this development, we did do that, but also way back in 2014, when I was with the Metropolitan Planning Council, we worked with many of you here on a 3-part community process to re-envision what was an underutilized surface parking lot here in Logan Square, literally on top of a transit station. As I said later in Plan Commission, when we were pushing hard to get this done, this was a unicorn of a property. We met for that community process at the Hairpin Arts Center here in Logan Square over 3 long meetings. And we had real-time translators and a kids' activity table, and we had actual building blocks that people used to reimagine the site. We had developers on hand who gave real-time numbers to the scenarios that people created. And I was just reminded, in their pre-aldermanic days, both Daniel Laspada and Carlos Ramirez-Rosa participated in that process. And you know what? I also want to name this. It's messy, right? As community processes and democracy often are. People did not all agree. But the point is, this community did the hard work of figuring out the highest and best use of this space. And the result was that this community said, unequivocally, we should not be housing only cars here when we could be housing people. People who want to stay in this community that they've called home as it becomes less and less affordable. People who want and need to live near transit to get them to jobs and school and all the things that Chicago has to offer. So proximity to transit is a game changer. I love it. I take it almost every day. We at the city realize, though, that access to transit is not the reality for many residents, especially those on the south and west sides of the city. And we're actively working to change that in two ways. And the mayor previewed this too. We want to do more and more developments like this. In our last funding round, 18 of our 24 developments were near transit. 12 of those 18 were on the south and west side, where we previously were not seeing this kind of development. So the Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments serves as a model for what we want future development to look like in our city. Development that maximizes housing and affordability. And it represents our commitment at the city to creating communities that connect people to what they need. So I want to thank Joy for your committed partnership through this process, to Alderman Ramirez-Rosa, CHA CEO Tracy Scott. Our partners at the state have moved mountains for affordable housing, and I really want to thank you all for that. And in terms of housing staff, you know, we talk about city resources in this development, and there's tax increment financing, there's tax exempt bonds, there's home funds. It all sounds like a lot of gobbledygook. And the thing is, these resources don't just kind of fall from the sky. Someone has to painstakingly work through the process with the local development team to make sure we get to closing through construction and to this day. And the person with the Department of Housing who took on that role is one of the best in the biz, Ms. Anna Booth, way at the back. So please, when you look at the Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments, remember that this is what the future of development near transit should look like, and this is what justice looks like. Thank you.
Awesome. I agree totally. I want to bring up our next speaker, who I think her words will speak for themselves. One of the first residents here at Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments, and somebody, you know, this is family housing. And this is somebody who I think really embodies the need for family housing. And I don't want to steal her story, so I'm going to let her tell it, but join me in welcoming Donetta Bush to the stage.
Praise be to God. My name is Donetta Bush. I'm the second resident at the Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments. I have lived in Logan Square 8 years. I witnessed multiple buildings go up. I never associated myself with any of those buildings, but my vision was not clear. Bickerdike showed up, gave 100 families a safety net, gave us hope, opportunity, affordable housing. We are so deserving and truly grateful. Bickerdike has an organization membership representing 400 individuals and organizations. This gives us a voice. This is more than affordable housing. This is help in areas that needs help. Not just for us as grown-ups, but most definitely for our kids and grandkids. The opportunity has presented itself right here, right now. It takes footwork, and we are expected to take care of what is given. This is an opportunity I never expected to receive on the north side of Chicago. Never. This is just a few people I feel the need to thank, knowing there's many more. Joy, I don't know how to say your last name, but thank you. Every employee at Bickerdike, leaving out none, thank you. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, thank you. Alderman Carlos Ramirez-Rosa, thank you. I use your office for many things. Thank you. I did not catch your name, but I caught your title. The Commissioner of Housing, thank you. Bickerdike Redevelopment Corporation has 1,194 affordable housing units in 140 buildings, providing high-quality housing for over 3,000 residents. I speak for 3,000 residents. Thank you. Thank you for a better day and a brighter tomorrow.
Thank you, Danetta. You know, we work really hard to make sure that the residents faced with displacement in this community had a place that they could call home. And I think that the two residents that you've met today and many more are really embody exactly who we hope to serve in this housing. So with absolutely no further ado, I want to introduce one of our incredible leaders in this community, somebody who has really been a champion of so many things, but truly a champion of affordable housing, somebody who got elected right when this planning process was going on. We met each other during the planning process, and we came and we said, hey, we want to do 100% affordable housing on this site. And he said, well, you know what? That's good, because a lot of the people who I know want the same thing. And so I want to bring him up and just really recognize what a partner he has been, a partner his office has been over the years of development of this process in all of its different stages. And so help me in welcoming Alderman Carlos Rosa.
Good morning. Good morning. You know, it's getting a little bit cloudy, but today is a beautiful day on Chicago's northwest side. Amen. It's a beautiful day because we are finally cutting the ribbon on Logan Square's much anticipated, all affordable, transit-oriented housing development, the Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments. Yeah. It is fitting that this building that will house 100 working families, is named after Lucy E. Gonzalez Parsons. Not because Lucy was called more dangerous than 1,000 rioters, or because Lucy was called the most talented and eloquent woman of her age. It is fitting because Lucy's life and story, the story of a working class woman of color who fought for the needs of working people against great odds, mirrors the story of our community and how our community fought to make this housing development a reality. Lucy was born into slavery. After the Civil War, she married Albert Parsons, a white man. And in 1873, the couple came to Chicago to escape the prejudice they faced in the Jim Crow South. It is perhaps for this reason that Lucy, a black woman, would claim she was of mixed Mexican and indigenous descent. While the true story of Lucy's heritage remains a question, one thing is clear. Lucy and her family were diverse, multicultural, and multiracial, like the inhabitants of this building and the diversity of Logan Square that we love. In Chicago, the family would flourish and grow. Lucy and Albert would have 2 children and become leaders in the nascent movement for workers' rights. On May 1st of 1886, Lucy and Albert would lead a march of 80,000 workers down Michigan Avenue, demanding an 8-hour workday with no cut-in pay. A few days later, at another protest for the 8-hour workday, an unknown assailant threw a bomb. Workers and police officers would die in the clash, and Albert, alongside 7 other labor organizers, would be scapegoated and wrongfully convicted and sentenced to death. Lucy would fight to save her husband's life. She traveled the state and the nation organizing for clemency for Albert and the other wrongfully convicted men. On November 11th, 1887, Lucy brought her 2 young children to see their father one last time. The police did not allow her to pass. She was arrested, stripped naked, and left in a jail cell while her husband was killed. His final words would be, "Let the voice of the people be heard." Of this grave injustice, of this horrible trauma she lived, Lucy would later say, "Oh misery, I have drunk thy cup of sorrow to its dregs, but I am still a rebel." Lucy would go on to be one of 2 women delegates at the founding convention of the Industrial Workers of the World, the labor union that represents dill pickle food co-op workers today. She would go on to organize against racism, lynchings, and sexism. On January of 1915, she led a march of 15,000 unemployed and homeless Chicagoans down Halsted. She was arrested for leading this march, but undeterred, she organized yet another huge demonstration less than a month later. And on February 12th, joined by Jane Addams in the American Federation of Labor, she forced City Hall to act. And unemployed Chicagoans were put to work building sidewalks, shoveling snow, and filling potholes. That's right, let's clap for that. Facing adversity throughout her life, Lucy would not back down. Faced with racism, sexism, police violence, poverty, and political repression, she continued to wake up day after day and fight. Lucy's tenacity in the face of adversity mirrors the tenacity of our community in the struggle to turn a parking lot into homes. We marched, we petitioned, we canvassed, we organized, and we would not take no for an answer. We came together just like the Chicagoans Lucy brought together, and we fought for what we knew was right. It's quite remarkable that the grassroots campaign to win the Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments brought so many different people and groups together in a way that our community has not seen before. Community groups and neighbors that had previously found themselves on opposite sides of issues came together in coalition. The effort to turn a parking lot into 100 working families' homes created a unity in our neighborhood that was seen by all in April of 2019 and is still seen today. A coalition that helped pass historic legislation to protect 2 to 4 flat apartment buildings in our neighborhood, and a coalition that will help build future affordable housing developments in Logan Square as well, including at a lot just down the street, 2525 North Kedzie, owned by the CTA. Lucy Gonzalez Parsons taught us that when we come together, we can accomplish great things. It took many people coming together to get this housing built, and it's worth thanking them all over again. I want to thank Bickerdike. I want to thank Palenque LSNA. I want to thank United Neighbors of the 35th Ward, Logan Square Ecumenical Alliance, Logan Square Preservation, MPC, CHA, SCIU, Mayor Lightfoot and her administration, DOH, DPD, our 35th Ward staff, Landon Bone Baker Architects, and the union workers who built this building, Operating Engineers Local 150 and Laborers Local 1. I want to thank the members of the Illinois Labor History Society who are with us here. But most importantly, I want to thank every single Chicagoan, every single neighbor who signed a petition, attended a meeting, and made their voice heard in support of this development. It took a coalition to get us here today, and we should all be so proud of our collective efforts. To paraphrase the great Lucy Gonzalez Parsons, let us set aside our differences and set our faces towards the future. Because there is no power on earth that can stop women and men determined to be free. Our community was determined to take a step towards a greener and more just future. Our community was determined to take a publicly owned parking lot and convert it into dignified housing for 100 working families. Our community was determined to take a step towards addressing Chicago's legacy of segregation and to take a step towards a future where housing is a human right. Logan Square, Chicago, we have taken that step together. So let us keep moving together. Let us keep striving together. 50 years from now, almost all of us here will have passed. But Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments will continue standing in the heart of our community as a testament to the values of our community and to all that we can accomplish when we unite and fight for a better world. Lucy vive, la lucha sigue. Lucy vive, la lucha sigue. Lucy vive, la lucha sigue. Lucy lives, the struggle goes on. Thank you so much, Logan Square.
Thank you, Alderman. All right. I want to, it's worth thanking everybody again because it really does take a village to do this. And so I want to start by thanking the mayor for her leadership and for making the funding available on this development, the Alderman Carlos Ramirez-Rosa, the 35th Ward, the Chicago Housing Authority, the Chicago Department of Planning and Development, the Chicago Department of Housing, Alderman Harry Osterman as the chairman of the Committee on Housing and Real Estate, the National Equity Fund, who is one of the made funds available for this project, Applegate and Thorne Thompson, our legal team, because there's a lot of legal stuff with affordable housing, let me tell you. The Local Initiative Support Corporation, who provided pre-development for this pre-development financing for this project. The Palenque Logan Square Neighborhood Association, who mobilized people for this project to make it happen. Thank you. Logan Square Ecumenical Alliance, who I can't tell you how many times they came out. I appreciate their leader and Pastor Bruce Ray's leadership. Thank you. To the Logan Square Preservation, I think Andrew Schneider is here. There you are. Thank you very much. The Logan Square Chamber of Commerce, who played a role in this development. Lynn Mathis Construction, who provided the excellent construction on this precast construction building, precast concrete. I want to thank Landon Bone Baker because without them, they wouldn't have been able to build it. They are our architects, and we're practically married because they've been our architects on almost every project. Thank you, Pete and Jeff and company. The Chicago 14th District Police Department, who couldn't live without them. I want to make a special recognition for a man who I hope you'll all come back out here when we do the unveiling, Hector Duarte, who will be doing that mural, who I see is here. Our own local Chicago talent, and who did the yellow brick road for Bickerdike on the corner of Wabansie and the Boulevard. United Neighbors of the 35th Ward. Woo! Metropolis Coffee, who donated the coffee at today's event. U.S. Bank, who provided the funding and through the state donation tax credit, which was made available by the leadership of our elected officials, who I welcomed this morning. Thank you very much for making sure that that program gets renewed. It was just renewed not that long ago, and God knows we need it. Will Gazzardi, who's chair of the Housing Committee, which didn't even exist before a little over a year ago, right? I also want to thank our Logan Square neighbors, our neighbors who helped make this, who came out. We had a community meeting of over 500 people who overwhelmingly voted in favor of this project. Thank you. I also want to thank SEIU, who were a real pain in my butt, but who now I welcome and thank for their leadership and represent our janitorial and maintenance workers. They're here today, so thank you. The Puerto Rican Agenda for their leadership. They mobilize people for their leadership in the greater Humboldt Park area and Logan Square. And for the Equitable Transit-Oriented Development Task Force, who talked about this project long before we ever got one of these big sections dropped in by crane. So thank you for your leadership. We're now going to go to cut the ribbon because that's the momentous occasion, right? And so we're going to walk down, everybody on the stage. We're going to go and we're going to welcome this project formally to the neighborhood. We formally named this project Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Apartments, and we cut this ribbon today in celebration of 100 units of equitable, transit-oriented, affordable housing.